I remember the morning I realized something needed to change. I was 68, sitting in my kitchen, swirling the last of my sweetened tea around in its mug. I'd been drinking tea that way for decades. 2 heaping teaspoons of sugar, sometimes 3, if I was feeling particularly indulgent. It was something I picked up as a younger adult, a comforting daily ritual that brought me warm memories of family gatherings and friendly chats. But on this particular morning, I felt different. I noticed the persistent aches in my joints, the fluctuations in my energy throughout the day, and how my belly felt a bit heavier than it used to. It dawned on me that this small cup of sweetness might be doing far more harm than good. Many seniors like us hold on to lifelong habits without questioning their impact, and sugary tea is often one of those hidden pitfalls we overlook. If you're over 65, you've likely been told all kinds of advice about what you should and shouldn't eat or drink. It can feel overwhelming. We're often left confused because dietary guidelines have changed so much over the decades. Remember when low-fat diets were all the rage, and then suddenly good fats came back in style? But there's one point nearly every health expert agrees on. Sugar is not our friend as we age. The older we get, the more sensitive our bodies become to its negative effects. And the sugar in that comforting cup of tea can add up significantly, day after day. This is about more than just your waistline. It's about blood sugar stability, heart health, and maintaining the energy you need to stay active and independent. As we get older, small dietary choices can have a big impact on how we feel, move, and enjoy daily life. A small change, like reducing or removing added sugar from tea, can spark a transformative shift in overall well-being. It might seem hard to believe that something so small could make a difference. But once I stopped sweetening my tea, I experienced 3 significant health wins: steadier energy levels, fewer aches, and an easier time maintaining a healthy weight. These wins aren't just my personal story. They're possibilities for many older adults who decide to dial back on sugar. Think about it this way. If you pour 1 or 2 teaspoons of sugar into your tea a few times a day, that's a constant trickle of refined sugar going into your system. Over weeks, months, and years, it accumulates in ways that may not be obvious at first. Maybe you feel a slight dip in energy mid-afternoon, so you grab more sugar or carbs to perk up. Maybe the scale creeps up, or your blood pressure readings become a bit higher than they used to be. These subtle changes can add up to bigger concerns if we don't pay attention. And believe me, I get it. Nobody wants to be lectured. But taking a closer look at that daily tea habit could be one of the simplest ways to reclaim control over your health. Over the next few minutes, I'll share insights into why dropping the sugar from my tea at 68 turned out to be a pivotal choice. We'll explore commonly held misconceptions that many seniors have about sugar and aging. And we'll look at realistic examples of friends and neighbors who made small adjustments with remarkable outcomes. I'm not here to play doctor, but rather to offer my experience and knowledge as someone who's walked this road. You should, of course, talk to your healthcare provider when making any changes in your diet, especially if you have conditions like diabetes or heart disease. My aim is to give you practical steps you can start taking today, whether it's choosing a natural sweetener or finding a new way to flavor your tea. By the end, you'll have a clearer sense of why cutting down on sugar, starting with something as basic as your daily tea, can unlock benefits that ripple through every aspect of your life. I invite you to listen closely, maybe even sip on a less sweetened cup of tea as we talk, and see if this could be the change you need. If you find any of these ideas helpful, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments or pass this along to another friend who might need a nudge. Our generation has so much wisdom to share, but that also means we should remain open to new insights that can help us live better in our golden years. I used to assume that as we get older, we simply have to accept certain discomforts: low energy, random aches, and an ever-expanding waistline. But I realize that's not entirely true. Sometimes a single habit is contributing to a lot of what we blame on just getting older. Allow me to show you how something as tiny as sugar crystals stirred into a cup of tea each day can shape the bigger picture of your well-being. Because once you recognize the difference, you'll see that even small changes can lead to a major transformation. One commonly held assumption is that the bit of sugar we add to tea doesn't really matter, especially if the rest of our diet is decent. That was exactly what I used to think. After all, my meals weren't loaded with processed junk, and I love my fruits and vegetables. Yet I was still dealing with sluggish afternoons. I'd assume it was normal for someone my age to take an afternoon nap. The misconception here is the belief that only large amounts of sugar are harmful, but in reality, tiny amounts of sugar consumed consistently throughout the day can keep our blood glucose levels in a roller coaster pattern. When we're younger, our bodies are more resilient at handling those spikes and dips. But after 65, many of us become more sensitive to even moderate levels of sugar, which can trigger everything from energy crashes to elevated blood pressure. I have a friend named Margaret, a vibrant 70-year-old who swore by her sweet morning tea. She insisted that it couldn't be making that much of a difference. Then she noticed her knees would start aching by mid-morning, even on days she wasn't particularly active. Plus, she'd get these short bursts of energy followed by a slump that made her want to curl up on the couch. She assumed it was her arthritis flaring up, or the typical fatigue we all talk about as we get older. But after she experimented with cutting out the sugar in her morning cup, even just cutting it down by half at first, she saw her energy remain more consistent for the rest of the day. It seemed almost too good to be true, but as she continued this sugar reduction strategy for a few weeks, she reported fewer aches. It turned out that her body was reacting to the regular sugar spikes in ways she never connected to her tea habit. The evidence-based insight here is that regular sugar intake can contribute to inflammation, which often manifests as joint discomfort or a general feeling of stiffness. When you reduce sugar, especially the refined kind in sweetened drinks, you can help stabilize your blood sugar levels and minimize inflammatory responses in the body. The practical step to consider is to gradually decrease the sugar in your tea. If you're used to 2 teaspoons, try 1 teaspoon for a week, then shift to half a teaspoon. Eventually, you might choose to remove it entirely or replace it with a more natural alternative like stevia or a touch of honey. Be mindful, though, that even certain alternative sweeteners can affect blood sugar in subtle ways, so moderation is still key. Physically, you may feel steadier energy and notice fewer random aches when you ease off that steady drip of sugar. Emotionally, there can be a wonderful sense of empowerment. You've taken a small step, and it's giving you tangible results. If you're not sure you can tolerate the taste of unsweetened tea, consider trying herbal blends or adding slices of fruit for flavor. You might be surprised at how your palate adapts once it's not bombarded by sugar first thing in the morning. A good question to ask yourself right now is, have I ever tested this assumption in my own life, or have I just accepted that it's no big deal? You might be one simple experiment away from discovering a more vibrant version of your day-to-day life. On that note, if you've ever tried reducing sugar in your drinks and noticed any difference, good or bad, feel free to share that experience. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Another notion that many seniors believe is that sugar-free living is overly restrictive or that it kills the joy in life. I used to think, I've worked hard all these years. I deserve my simple pleasures. And you know, we absolutely do deserve to enjoy life. The misunderstanding lies in thinking that less sugar means less pleasure. In truth, our taste buds can evolve. Many of us have grown so accustomed to high sugar levels that we've forgotten what natural flavors taste like. By reducing added sugar, we often discover a depth in flavors we never noticed before. Let me share the story of Don, who's 72. Don was a self-proclaimed tea connoisseur, but his connoisseurship was basically overshadowed by the 3 teaspoons of sugar he'd stir into every cup. He tried to cut back once and told me that the tea was just too bitter. It tastes like I'm drinking hot water, he'd gripe, but he made a deal with himself to try it for 2 weeks. He used half the sugar at first, then gradually went down to no sugar at all. Something surprising happened around the 10-day mark. Don started noticing subtle differences between various tea blends, herbal, black, green, you name it. He found himself enjoying hints of citrus and floral notes that had been completely masked by sugar before. He now says that discovering those flavors was like adding a new dimension to his morning ritual. Researchers have observed that when we regularly consume high-sugar items, our taste receptors become less sensitive, needing more sugar to taste as sweet. Once you reduce sugar, your taste buds recalibrate. This is why that same sweet you used to love might taste overwhelmingly sugary after you've gone a month without it. The practical advice is to give your taste buds time to adjust. Don't rush yourself. Maybe start with a partial reduction. Don't force yourself to go cold turkey if it makes you miserable. The idea is to approach it as a gradual shift, almost like training your palate to appreciate a new range of flavors. The benefit of discovering new tastes is twofold. Physically, you remove a steady source of sugar that may be taxing your energy and metabolism. Emotionally, you gain a sense of wonder and curiosity about food and drink that can be really fulfilling. Instead of feeling restricted, you can approach your daily cup of tea as an experience to explore, adding citrus slices, fresh mint, or a dash of cinnamon to create a flavor you genuinely enjoy. This sense of exploration can be energizing. It's a reminder that life can still surprise us, even at 70 or 80. Now, I'd love to pause for a moment and ask, do you have a favorite tea blend or a special ingredient you like to add? It could be a sprinkle of ginger, a slice of lemon, or perhaps even a few crushed berries. Thinking about your own preferences can be the first step toward customizing a lower sugar option that still feels indulgent. If you've got a creative idea, let us know. You might inspire someone else to give it a try. Let's move on to another aspect that often catches seniors by surprise. Many believe that their sugar intake only matters if they're overweight or have a diagnosis of diabetes. If the doctor hasn't flagged your blood sugar, you might think you're in the clear. But here's the catch. Sugar can affect everything from blood pressure to oral health, even if your weight or glucose levels seem stable today. The misconception is that sugar's harm is limited to weight gain or a diabetic concern, but it's much broader. I'll never forget a conversation with Linda, who was 74 at the time. She prided herself on being relatively fit for her age. She wasn't on any blood pressure meds, and her weight was in a healthy range. So she assumed her sweet tea habit was harmless. Then she started experiencing gum sensitivity and frequent cavities at her dental checkups, which was a new issue for her. At first, her dentist chalked it up to changes in saliva production that often come with age. But when Linda mentioned her daily sweet tea, he gently suggested she cut back on sugar or at least rinse her mouth with water afterward. Within a couple of months, her gum issues improved, and her dental cleaning started going more smoothly. The key insight is that sugar can contribute to multiple health issues, not just the ones that are most commonly discussed. It can foster an environment for oral bacteria to thrive, leading to more plaque, more cavities, and potential gum disease. For a senior, dental health is more crucial than many realize. Poor oral health can impact your ability to eat comfortably and can even affect your heart health through chronic inflammation. A straightforward step here is to be mindful of how often your teeth are exposed to sugar. If you can't give up that sweet tea entirely, consider sipping it in one sitting rather than nursing it slowly all day. Follow it up with a water rinse or, better yet, brush your teeth if possible. These small measures help lower the risk of sugar lingering in your mouth, feeding harmful bacteria. It sounds almost too simple, but it can make a significant difference in your oral health, which in turn supports overall health. Cutting back on sugar doesn't only help stave off cavities, it also reduces the hidden stress on your cardiovascular system. Consistent sugar spikes can contribute to high triglyceride levels, and those can factor into heart concerns down the road. So even if you're at a healthy weight and don't have a label like prediabetic, your sweet tea could still be working against you in less obvious ways. The emotional upside of changing that habit is knowing you're taking proactive steps for your long-term health. It's an empowering feeling not to wait until a crisis hits. If you've ever thought, I'm not overweight, so sugar doesn't matter, this might be an invitation to consider the bigger picture. Health is about more than a number on the scale or a reading on a blood test. By looking at sugar's broader impact, you give yourself the gift of a more holistic approach, one that can protect your heart, your teeth, and your overall vitality in the years to come. I'd like to invite you to reflect on any habits you might have that haven't been questioned in years. It might not be sugary tea. It could be daily pastries, fruit juices, or even certain cereals. Sometimes a small, routine indulgence is exactly where we need to look for meaningful change. Feel free to jot down or mentally note one small habit that could be sneaking in more sugar than you realize. The simple act of noticing can be a powerful first step. Now let's challenge another assumption. Many seniors tell me they find it nearly impossible to change ingrained habits at this stage of life. They feel that after decades of living and eating a certain way, it's too late to shift gears. This is a big misconception. Our brains and bodies are more adaptable than we give them credit for, even in our later years. While it might take a little longer or require more patience, change is absolutely possible and often comes with greater rewards because of the immediate improvements we see in how we feel. Consider Leon, who was 80 when he made the decision to stop adding sugar to his evening cup of chamomile tea. He was initially skeptical, figuring his taste buds were too set in their ways. But Leon also wanted to see if it might help reduce his restless nights. He'd been having trouble staying asleep, waking up around 2 or 3 a.m. almost every night. While chamomile tea is known for its soothing properties, the couple of teaspoons of sugar he added could give him a slight blood sugar spike before bed, eventually leading to a middle-of-the-night crash that disrupted his sleep cycle. After about 3 weeks of sugar-free chamomile, sometimes sweetened with just a tiny bit of mashed berries, Leon noticed he was waking up less frequently. He still had the odd restless night now and then, but overall he reported deeper, more consistent sleep. This improvement in sleep then gave him more energy during the day, creating a positive feedback loop. From a research standpoint, we know that blood sugar fluctuations can affect sleep quality. While the effect varies from person to person, cutting out nighttime sugar can help some individuals avoid those mid-sleep interruptions. Another point is that seniors often have more fragile sleep patterns. Any spike or dip in blood sugar can have a greater impact than it would for a younger person. Here's a practical step to try if better sleep is your goal. If you have an evening tea, try removing sugar from that particular cup first. Or if you really crave something sweet, pair it with a small piece of cheese or a handful of nuts to help stabilize blood sugar. And of course, consult with your healthcare provider if you're dealing with persistent insomnia or any ongoing health conditions. Physically, better sleep can improve everything from your immune function to your mood. Emotionally, it can lift your spirits, help combat feelings of anxiety or depression, and give you the stamina to stay active. It's never too late to reinvent one aspect of your diet. If you're 68, 78, or 88, your body might still surprise you by how it responds to even small tweaks. The emotional benefit of proving to yourself that you can change is huge. It's a reminder of your resilience, a quality that has carried you through many of life's challenges already. If you're thinking, I'm too old for this, I encourage you to replace that with, let me see what happens if I give it a try for a week or two. The results might just inspire you to keep going. Finally, there's another compelling reason I stopped drinking sugary tea: the ripple effect of positive habits. We often assume a single change is isolated, but in reality, one tweak can catalyze a series of healthier decisions. After I stopped sweetening my tea, I found myself more aware of other sugary items in my routine, like that midday cookie or the sweetened yogurt I sometimes had for dessert. Without consciously forcing it, I started scaling back on those too. It's as though my taste buds, once freed from the constant sugar input, guided me toward foods that felt genuinely nourishing. Let me share Marjorie's story. She's 67, younger than me by a year, but she's struggled with her weight for most of her adult life. She decided to ditch the sugar in her tea mainly to manage her blood pressure, which had been creeping upward. Within a month, she felt more in control of her cravings in general. The surprising part was how it changed her grocery shopping habits. Instead of reaching for sugary snacks and pastries, she found herself drawn to nuts, seeds, and fresh fruits, foods she used to bypass because she was craving intense sweetness. Over time, those small substitutions helped her drop a few pounds, but more importantly, her blood pressure readings improved. She told me it was like a domino effect. One small shift encouraged the next and so on, and she never felt like she was on a diet or depriving herself, which was the biggest win. According to many nutrition experts, behavioral changes often cluster together. When you experience success in one area, it boosts your confidence and motivation, leading you to naturally pursue additional healthy behaviors. The first step is usually the hardest, but once you see a victory, like getting rid of the sugar in your tea and feeling more stable energy or noticing a small drop in blood pressure, you start to think, what else can I do? A practical tip to harness this ripple effect is to keep a small journal or note on your phone, tracking any positive changes you notice. Did you have more energy today? Were you less tempted by sweets after dinner? Did your joints feel less stiff? These observations can be incredibly motivating. Before you know it, you might be making better meal choices, taking an extra walk around the block, or exploring new hobbies because you simply have more stamina. Emotionally, seeing these changes can do wonders for your self-esteem and overall outlook on life. Instead of feeling like health issues are inevitably in control, you realize you have more power than you thought. Now that we've examined these ideas, how sugar can trigger inflammation, mask flavors, affect oral and heart health, disrupt sleep, and initiate healthier habits overall, let's take a moment to breathe and think about what stands out for you. Every person's journey is different. Maybe you're most concerned about your energy levels, or perhaps your focus is on preventing weight gain or staying active to enjoy time with grandchildren. Whatever your motivation, know that you hold the reins when it comes to those teaspoons of sugar. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these insights resonated the most? Sometimes sharing your thoughts is a great way to solidify your commitment. If a friend or family member could benefit from hearing about the possibilities of ditching sugar, consider sending this their way. When we exchange stories and support, we can create a community that uplifts each other toward better health. Let's gather up everything we've discussed so far and consider the difference it could make in your day-to-day life. A few teaspoons of sugar here and there might seem insignificant, but when repeated year in and year out, they can contribute to a cascade of challenges, anything from joint inflammation to disrupted sleep to dental woes. We've seen how something as simple as removing sugar from your tea can lead to more stable energy, fewer cravings, better oral health, and even an overall pattern of healthier eating. There's a balance to be struck between warning and empowerment. Yes, there are real reasons to be concerned about sugar intake, particularly as we age. But we don't need to approach this with doom and gloom. Instead, think of it as an opportunity, a chance to discover new flavors, regain control over your energy levels, and potentially unlock a healthier, more comfortable version of your golden years. There's a certain urgency in making these changes sooner rather than later, because the longer we let sugar drive our daily routines, the more entrenched some of these health issues can become. Yet this isn't about scare tactics. It's about recognizing that your future self might thank you for taking action now. Picture waking up a month from today after you've steadily reduced sugar in your tea. Imagine feeling a bit more spry as you step out of bed, noticing fewer aches and pains. Perhaps you're motivated to go for a morning walk, or maybe you simply enjoy an easier time getting through your household tasks without that midday slump. Little by little, these benefits add up to a richer life where you have the energy and confidence to participate in the activities that matter to you, whether it's gardening, traveling, volunteering, or just playing with the grandkids. If you feel inspired, the simplest call to action is this: experiment with reducing the sugar in your tea for just 1 week. Measure your energy, your mood, your sleep, and even your cravings. If that goes well, consider finding another small source of sugar you can reduce or swap out. If you want to go deeper, keep a little journal and jot down any improvements you notice. It's a fantastic way to see your progress in black and white. And if you're someone who loves community and accountability, share your journey with a friend or relative who might join you. Sometimes having a buddy can make all the difference, turning what feels like a challenge into a fun shared adventure. For those who prefer a more passive level of engagement, even simply thinking about what you've learned today can plant a seed that may blossom later on. If you find yourself unsure or overwhelmed, remember you can always consult a nutritionist or your primary care provider. They can give personalized advice tailored to any medical conditions you might have, ensuring you make safe and suitable changes. In all of this, never forget that you have agency. You've navigated life's twists and turns for decades now, and you certainly have the wisdom and resilience to adapt your diet in ways that support your well-being. Changing a small habit like sweetening your tea might be the key that unlocks more energy, reduces those random aches, or even allows you to enjoy your favorite activities without feeling drained. At the end of the day, it's not about giving up pleasure. It's about gaining a healthier, more vibrant life in exchange for a few less teaspoons of sugar. I hope you feel encouraged and equipped to take that next step. Whether you cut out sugar entirely or simply reduce it, every bit of progress can pave the way to a healthier, more fulfilling life. It's your choice, one that can make a significant difference in how you experience the coming years. And remember, small steps often lead to big changes. You've got this. Thank you for spending this time with me. And if you found value here, please consider sharing your own experiences or passing this along to someone you care about. Here's to making mindful decisions that honor our bodies and keep us thriving, one cup of tea at a time.